Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON. Chapter 12, texts 13 and 14. Advishta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahamkara samadukha sukhakshami santushta satatam yogi yatatma jara nischayaha mayarpita mano buddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha. Advishta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahamkara samadukha sukhakshami santushta satatam yogi yatatma jara nischayaha mayarpita mano buddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha. Translation. Krishna is naturally full of all good qualities. In Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami has listed 56 qualifications of Krishna by which he is attracted to everybody. So a devotee also becomes decorated with good qualities. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati kinchana sarvari gunais tatra samasate sura. All the good qualities of the demigods automatically appear in the person of a devotee. What kind of devotee? Akinchan. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati akinchana. One who is akinchan. Akinchan means he has nothing in this world, only Krishna. Krishna's one name is Akinchana Gochara. He is revealed to those who have no other desire but to serve him. Krishna reveals Krishna, these qualities, they are attractive. Therefore his name is Krishna, all attractive. Those qualities have been described, those qualities as they develop in devotees have been described by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That a devotee is kind, merciful, clean, tolerant, balanced eater, poetic, compassionate. The most important of all these qualities is Krishnaika Sharan. He is completely surrendered to Krishna. And by that surrender, all good qualities develop. Because Krishna is the ocean of all good qualities. That's called Gunarnava, an ocean of transcendental qualities. We sing in Praptasya Kalyana Gunarnavasya. The spiritual master is getting benediction from the ocean of good qualities. Someone can bring some water. Bring. So it is natural for the living being to have all good qualities, because he is part and parcel of Krishna. So when we revive our Krishna consciousness, those good qualities come out. At the moment, these good qualities, they are covered and perverted as lust, envy, anger, greed. These are described by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad-gita. Dambho darpo vimanascha krodha parishamevacha agyana chabhijatasya partha sambhatam asurim. Those who are demoniac, they have all bad qualities. Pride, conceit, arrogance, false ego, ignorance, harsh speech. These all are present in the personalities of demons. But actually we're not meant to be demons, we're meant to be devotees, every living being. But that love for Krishna, which is our inherent nature, which is very strong, it becomes perverted into all bad qualities. And therefore we cause suffering to others and suffering to ourselves. And Krishna, he's also not pleased to see this. Krishna says here that a devotee who has developed all good qualities is very dear to me. So similarly, Krishna is not very pleased to see that his devotees, they've become demons and are acting wrongly. Those who are very demoniac, they take pleasure in very nasty activities. This was very much demonstrated in the recent war in Bosnia. And you'll see, just like in Spain they have this bull fighting, they take pleasure in torturing the bull and killing him. But generally most of the people in the world, they don't approve of this kind of thing.
Sorry.
They express horror at the atrocities performed in the war in Bosnia, for instance. It is somewhat hypocritical because at the same time they're eating meat which is obtained by torturing animals and then killing them. Especially now they have all these mechanized, they have these factory farms where throughout, at least they give lip service to grossly horrible activities. Prabhupada, he wrote that most of the people in the world are not bad. They're not so bad by nature. Of course everyone in this world is bad, otherwise why are we here? But most of the people, they're not so very, very demonic. Most of the people are innocent but misled. Mostly the leaders are bad, because the leaders of society are influencing people to become demoniac more and more. We see, actually if you see mostly children, you can very easily get them to chant Hare Krishna. Do you have that experience here? But when they get a little older, then it becomes more difficult, because they've been trained in a different way. Then they get the idea that how we should live as perfectly civilized demons. But still, most people, they're not so bad. If the propaganda for demoniac life was not so strong, then certainly many people could come to Krishna consciousness. And although people tend to get misled by false kind of propaganda about our movement in the newspapers, still, when people come in contact with devotees, they can see how we are living. Many people appreciate it. Devotees are not ordinary people. It's not only in our dress that we are different. Hopefully our dress is different. Better to dress as devotees so people can see this is a devotee of Krishna. And in the beginning they may laugh a little. They may do, they may not. Probably most people are surprised when they first see devotees dressed like this. But after some time they get used to it and they see it so many times, then it becomes a normal thing to them. Especially now, so many people in Western Europe, America, Australia, when they were 3 or 4 years old, they were going with their mother in the city center. They used to see devotees chanting and dancing. So now when they're 23 years old, they don't think it's unusual. They've seen it all their lives. So when people see devotees, they know this is a member of the Hare Krishna movement. Just by thinking Hare Krishna, there's some purification for them. Just by seeing a devotee, there's some purification. Now, how do people think about devotees? Mostly they pick up some ideas which they get in the newspapers or whatever. But if they meet our devotees and they appreciate what good character they have, that will be very good preaching. We want to establish Krishna consciousness within this world. How is that to be done? We have book distribution. Prabhupada said, know it for certain that there is no better way to preach, to spread Krishna consciousness than by distributing my books. We have festivals, we have prasad distribution, Harinam, Sankirtan. There are so many programs for bringing people to Krishna consciousness. One very important thing is just how the devotees behave with the public and with each other. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is stated, Dharma sthapan hetu shadu bebaha. Religion is established in this world by the behavior of saintly people. People expect good behavior from saintly people. Saintly people are supposed to be like shelters for those who are suffering in material life. Generally people approach saintly people when they're experiencing some distress. So, because a saintly person is full in himself. Here Krishna stated, Sama dukkha sukha kshami. He's unaffected by the happiness and misery of this material life, undisturbed by the comings and goings of this world, because his senses are controlled. Therefore he's able to deal equally with everybody. Advishta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha. He's not envious of anybody. He's friendly and merciful to everybody, because he doesn't see anyone as his enemy. Even if someone does become an enemy of a devotee never becomes an enemy of anybody else. Of course, in preaching we have so many philosophical enemies, and sometimes we speak in very strong terms against them, but we don't hate anyone. Vaishnava, he never feels hatred towards anyone. Vaishnava feels love for everybody because he loves Krishna and he knows that everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. So even if someone is behaving very wrongly, the Vaishnava may speak very strongly, but that is not hatred. Just like the mother chastises the child to correct the child, not out of hate. Srila Prabhupada told one story when he was living in Calcutta. One morning he heard a big commotion from next door. The young lady, one of the young ladies living there was shouting and her child was crying. So there's a system that if you want to find out what's going in the next house, you send your servant and he asks the servant in the next house and he comes back and brings the information. So what had happened, this woman had several sons. Typhoid is such a disease that you should not eat at all. If you eat, it's very dangerous. Fever will increase more and more. So the boy who had typhoid, he said secretly to one of his brothers, just get me something to eat. So that boy had secretly given him some parathas. You know what paratha is? Fried bread. So then the mother found out, and she was very angry. She was shouting at the boy who had done the stealing and given it to his brother. So there are so many cases. The mother will chastise the child. But that is not out of bad feeling. So in Krishna consciousness it is required that we speak very strongly and preach very strongly. But that is not hatred. Devotee is the kind friend of everybody. Sure. At the same time, it should be understood that being the kind friend of everybody doesn't mean that he's a wet sentimentalist. Sometimes we see pictures of Swamis holding a flower and smiling. And if anybody ever comes to them, they say, all right, God will bless you, God will bless you. And people think, oh, very nice thing. But actually he doesn't care for the people at all. He's just cutting a profile of being a saintly person, making a show. Making a show, fulfilling the role that people expect a saintly person. I remember once in Bangladesh, I was sitting with one so-called guru by profession. That means people come to him for blessings and they give him donations. This way he maintains his family. So one old lady came to him and said, oh, my eyes are very bad. He said, don't worry, God will look after you. Such a rascal. Why should he speak such nonsense? We should tell her that now you're very old, of course your eyes are bad. Take this as a sign that you're going to die soon, so better chant Hare Krishna. So, but instead, oh, don't worry, God will help you. So people like to hear this. People like a sadhu who is always smiling and whatever you say, yes, yes, that's okay, everything's all right. But that is not the actual business of sadhu. Sadhu should help others. Help means he may point out the defects. He cannot do that unless he himself is free from defects. And that is why people will approach a saintly person. A saintly person means he's supposed to be in a different class to materialistic people, because he's controlled his senses. He knows how to say no to the senses. Every materialistic person is dragged by the senses. If there is something attractive to the senses, they will immediately, just like a fish going towards the food on the hook, they don't think. They just immediately go for it. They have no sense of discrimination. If it feels good, do it. That is about the limit of any philosophy in the modern age. But this is a foolish so-called philosophy. Because if something feels good and you do it, but then there may be a bad reaction afterwards. Just like the fish, he sees the bait on the hook, so it feels good to him to eat the food on the hook. But the next second he finds the hook has gone through his mouth. Very painfully he's caught. He must die. So, a saintly person, he restrains the senses. This is the basis of morality. Sense control is the basis of morality. The ability to say no. There's so many attractions. Right. Come to this bar, come to this restaurant. A saintly person, he says no to almost. Why does he say no? Because he knows that it's not in his own self-interest. He has a higher goal of life. the indulgence in sense gratification will block that advancement in Krishna consciousness. Therefore he doesn't indulge in it. Yeah. So by following these principles, a devotee becomes strong in his character, becomes ideal in his character. Because his senses are controlled, therefore his mind is peaceful. Therefore he's not disturbed by the combinations and permutations of material varieties. Combinations, permutations. Yes. So people will notice that. Even materialistic people, in course of time, they'll come to notice that. When they know what our basic regulations are, people are sometimes surprised. No meat, no fish, no eggs, no gambling, no parties like this, no drinking all night. Devotees are self-controlled. People may be surprised by this. And because they think that life is based upon these principles, sometimes people think that our devotees are crazy. Because the basis of their life is meat-eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit sex. But gradually they will come to understand that actually by avoiding these principles of sinful life, devotees are saintly. What is the wonderful power of Krishna consciousness that young people who are expected to indulge more in sense gratification are saying no to these things. People will appreciate. There is so much propaganda being made to try to stop crime and drug abuse and unnecessary violence. But all this propaganda cannot be successful if at the same time the propaganda is there to increase your lust and greed. The advertisement is there, buy this, buy that. The syndrome is created whereby it is thought that if someone has an expensive car, he is better than someone who has just a, Yugo? Something like Yugo car. People judge you. Oh, this person is better than this person. This person has a BMW, he only has a Yugo. So that creates a kind of greed that I must get these things. People think themselves inadequate if they don't have this nice car, designer sunglasses, big house, lot of money. And the propaganda is there that you will be happy by having these things. So people become frustrated if they can't get them. And then they see on the television also violence. And everywhere there are, to advertise everything, there are pictures of young women with no clothes hardly. So this way their lust, their greed and their anger increase. Think, let me steal, let me kill, let me get somehow or other, let me get this material opulence and enjoy. And because that idea is there, that you should get more material acquisitions, therefore there is more and more selfishness. There's no training in modern society, there's no training in how to be selfless, only how to be selfish. So people think, well, it doesn't matter, if I kill someone to get money, what does it matter? Kill them, cheat them, exploit others, therefore rape is there. Or someone will take a girlfriend, get her pregnant and leave her. Now I don't leave you. Thus, because selfish, no character. So we are teaching Krishna consciousness, by which devotees develop all good qualities. They actually become concerned about others, not in a sentimental, materialistic way, but devotees are concerned with the spiritual uplift of all other people. And their own character is ideal because they follow the principles of Krishna consciousness. This will gradually come to be noticed in society. If our devotees behave as devotees, if they actually follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, then they will develop all good qualities. But if devotees, even after coming to Krishna consciousness, still retain their demoniac principles, then it will be very difficult to spread Krishna consciousness. Devotees should always be aware that they are representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if they behave ideally, people will notice, they will appreciate. We're distributing books, giving people a higher ideal. People, when they read these books, many people, they become inspired. Especially when we read about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. We read about his wonderful activities and his wonderful devotees. So we feel some inspiration that where can we go to get the association of such people. But that association is there in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This society is meant for creating Vaikuntha, the spiritual world within the material world. Vaikuntha means a place where there is no envy, In this material world, everyone is envious. Therefore, they have no compunction. They can do any bad activities. No shame, no hesitation. Animals, they do whatever they want to do for their own sense gratification. So in the long term preaching strategy, most important is that our devotees be ideal. Devotees are supposed to lead society. That means we're not going to get guns and lead like that. There's no intention of that. But it is hoped that with the spiritual revolution that Prabhupada spoke of, that people will look for spiritual leaders. That people, they should be disgusted with their politicians. Mostly all over the world, people are disgusted with politicians because they are the most degraded. It's simply making all promises to get some position and use it for their own sense gratification. Exploit others. In so many ways, the politicians are causing so many problems all over the world. So, devotees, they should set a different kind of leadership, different standard of leadership. That they will lead others by being fixed in Krishna consciousness. So it may take some time, but definitely the people of the world will notice if our devotees stick to their principles. That is gradually coming all over the world. I'm seeing more and more all over the world how people are respecting our devotees. Of course, there'll always be crazy people, these low-class people who are half the time drunk, and they'll call you bad names. But we shouldn't be worried about them. These kind of people, they call everyone bad names. But I'm seeing more and more, especially more intelligent, educated people, they're appreciating this movement. Recently one of our devotees was telling me he was at one festival in England. It's the Glastonbury Festival. It's the biggest rock music festival in England every year. So our devotees have been going there for years and chanting Hare Krishna on stage with Mridangas and kartals and distributing prasad. So this devotee was telling me, he said that outside of India I never saw so many people so much respectful to our devotees. Because we've been doing the same thing for years. We chant, we preach to people about God, we distribute prasad to everybody, no meat. Before vegetarianism became popular, we were promoting Krishna prasad. People know we have principles. And if they see we're following year after year after year, and even if they're not following themselves, they'll respect them. So these qualities Vaishnavas develop by following these principles, beginning with rising early, chanting the holy names attentively. Ayapita mano buddhya, dedicating, here Krishna said, dedicating mind and intelligence to Krishna, all qualities will develop in devotees. And such a devotee is very pleasing to Krishna. And such a devotee is very pleasing to everybody else also. Dhira dhira janapriya priya karo. The 6 Goswamis were dear, they were appreciated by saintly people and even by non-saintly people because of their good qualities developed in devotional service to Krishna. We'll find in the Bhagavatam that Kamsa, he was such a big demon, but he wanted to kill all the sons born of Devotee. So Vasudeva told him that, you don't worry, he promised, I'll deliver every son to you. He said, there's no need to torture Devaki, no need to kill her, I'll deliver every son to you. Because Kamsa got the information that the 8th son of Devaki would kill him. He thought, let me kill Devaki, then she won't have 8 sons. Vasudeva promised, no, I'll deliver every son to you as soon as they are born. And even though Kamsa was such a nasty, cruel demon, he trusted Vasudeva that if he gives his promise, he will follow. So even though Kamsa's intention wasn't good, the point is there, that he knew that Vasudeva's character is such. So let us go on with our devotional life. Not imitate the qualities, or the bad qualities of non-devotees. We should keep away from all kinds of non-devotional association. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was questioned, how can we recognize a Vaishnava? He said, Asat Sangatyag e Vaishnavacha. The first symptom of Vaishnava is that he gives up the bad association. That means we shouldn't mix very intimately with materialistic people. We shouldn't pick up their ideas. Sometimes Some devotees, they read a lot of books written by non-devotees. That's also one kind of demoniac association, because they are giving some different idea. Associating with such literature will contaminate the consciousness. And the values that the karmis have, then we'll also, directly or indirectly, we may want to pick them up. So it's better if we stick to Krishna consciousness, which will purify us. As Prabhupada said, everything you need to become fully Krishna conscious is in my books. And we only want to be Krishna conscious. We don't want to be anything else. So better we stick to reading Prabhupada's books, become absorbed in that philosophy. It's very nice. Several of you are taking notes, eager to understand this philosophy. Try to become absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Mix it up with all different ideas. Krishna consciousness, there's only one idea. Surrender to Krishna. The materialists, they have many different kinds of ideas. Bahushakahi anantascha. Many different ideas. And therefore, samadhona vidhiyate, their mind cannot be fixed. Whereas a devotee is virvasayatmika buddhi ekeha karunanaha. His intelligence is fixed on one point. That point is the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. That is his only goal. And by that alone, he develops all the good qualities. Hare Krishna. Is there any question?
What if we attend school and are obliged?
Sorry, what?
If we attend school and are obliged to read karma literature, how can we free ourselves from that kind of influence?
Potatoes. Fruit. Yeah, it's a very difficult situation.
Тежка ситуация.
I would recommend, if you don't have to be in that situation, don't be in it. Better and come and live with the devotees and learn how to serve Krishna. But if you're compelled to be in that situation, then you have to pray to Krishna to protect you. Associate with devotees as much as possible, and understand that whatever you read in these books is all nonsense. That as a matter of practicality, you have to study all these things to pass your exam. You should know it has no intrinsic value. One reason I wasn't very enthusiastic at school, because I knew the moment I finished my exam, if I forgot everything that I learned, it wouldn't make any difference because it's all useless. Most of the things I couldn't. Remember, if I had to sit the same exam today, I'd probably get about 2% or something. Because most of the things they teach you, they don't have any relevance to the actual world we live in. You actually start learning when you leave school. You start learning about life. Anyway, it's unfortunate. Forced to go to these slaughterhouses, as Prabhupada called them. If you're determined, you can be Krishna conscious anyway. Make a vow to chant 16 rounds under any circumstances. Read Prabhupada's books very carefully. Even if you study just a few pages of Prabhupada's books very carefully every day, they're so powerful. Blast away all misconceptions. But everyone should see, not only someone going to school, but every person who is serious to be Krishna conscious. They should see, how am I living my life? How to arrange my life in such a way that I can become fully Krishna conscious. Now, we may make so many plans and they may be upset by the permutations and combinations of material nature. But as much as possible, we should think how to arrange our lives in such a way that we can make progressive advancement in Krishna consciousness. Now, after millions of lifetimes, I got this opportunity to chant Hare Krishna. Now, how am I going to take maximum advantage of that? The answer will be different in every person's life, because those who have different commitments to their family and this and that, they may not be able to just leave them immediately. But the basic process of Krishna consciousness is there for everybody. Hearing about Krishna, serving Krishna, and the association of devotees. So we should try to maximize the spiritual content of our lives. If by circumstances we are forced to interact with the material energy, forced to interact with materialistic society, then we should take the advice of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad-gita to be like a lotus leaf. Because the lotus grows in the water, but the lotus leaf doesn't touch the water. And even if some drops of water go on the lotus leaf, it won't remain very long, it'll quickly fall down. So in such a circumstance where you have to read all these nonsense books, teaching you all kinds of rubbish things, then you pray to Krishna. Krishna, help me to keep strong. Any other question?
Some devotees told me that when we dream about Guru, Krishna, or the deities, that is just some kind of mental speculation. But on the other hand, some other devotees also told me that they're actually real because they're transcendental. So when we dream about them, it is just as if they were actually present before us. So which of these statements is actually true?
So some devotees said one thing and some devotees said something else. What does Prabhupada say? That is the standard. Otherwise, so many devotees may say so many things. Prabhupada said, when you dream of the spiritual master, that is not an ordinary dream, that is spiritual. If the spiritual master comes to you in a dream and says, you nonsense, why are you doing all this nonsense, give it up, then you should take it seriously. Now, if you see dreams, they're mostly very nonsense things. That's why we don't take them very seriously. So if in the dream you see the spiritual master, but it's some kind of nonsense thing, then that shouldn't be taken very seriously. But if it's something just like that, he's giving some proper instruction, then you should take that very seriously. That means he's personally coming. But anyway, apart from dreams, the spiritual master in waking life is giving so many instructions. You don't have to wait for a dream. All the instructions are already there, so follow them. We had the same question yesterday in Split, right? Remember? Can you chant Japa on the street? Yes. Yeah. We are introducing a new culture into the Western world. So people have to get used to it, that's all. That's what I say, even just to see you with shaved head and all this, they think it's very unusual, but after some time they'll get used to it. Of course, on the street may not be the most ideal place for chanting Hare Krishna. Generally, we chant our japa in the morning in the temple. Just like if you're waiting for the bus or something like that. You can chant Hare Krishna. Yes, Zadar, always chant Hare Krishna. You say always chant Hare Krishna except in public. Always chant.
In which situation does a pure devotee who has contacted Paramatma ask for some information from Krishna?
That's up to him.
What's it
got to do with you?
Kako veze s tobom?
Now, pure devotee is always in contact with Krishna. Once a newspaper reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, how do you know what to say in all these different situations? Because Prabhupada is traveling all over the world and he's meeting so many different kinds of people. And especially newspaper reporters like to ask all different kinds of questions to catch you out. Especially in America and Britain. Here I don't, in Eastern Europe I don't find that. But in those countries they're too intelligent. So Prabhupada was, whatever question they were giving, he was cutting them and they couldn't catch him, he was smashing them. So one reporter asked, how do you know what to say? Prabhupada said, Krishna tells me. So then the reporter asked, well, could you elaborate on that? What do you mean exactly? How does Krishna tell you? Prabhupada said, he just tells me, that's all. And one of Prabhupada's disciples was there, so he thought he would explain to the reporter. So what he said is that, right in front of Prabhupada he said that, well, what he means is that Prabhupada reads the books which are written by Krishna, and then, because he knows his philosophy, he knows what to say because he's read the books. And Prabhupada turned to the devotee and said, "You rascal, I didn't say that. Krishna tells me directly." Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once, when he approached Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj for initiation. So Gaurkishore said, "I'll ask Lord Chaitanya." Gaurkishore Das Babaji said, "I will ask Lord Chaitanya. If he gives permission, I'll give you initiation." So next day, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came and said, "Well, what did Lord Chaitanya say?" Gaurkishore said, "I forgot to ask him." Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santhasa Deva Hridayesha Devotee. Pure devotees in constant contact with Krishna. How that goes on we may not understand. We don't understand. Therefore we worship the pure devotees. But we shouldn't try to do some kind of psychological analysis of the pure devotee. That's offensive. Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Bigeha Nandajai. The activities, words, thoughts of pure devotees cannot be understood by any intellectual method. Any other question? Yeah, by developing the good qualities, the bad qualities automatically go away. Just like if you have a glass filled with ink, if you pour milk into that continuously, then gradually the ink will be replaced by the milk. So by developing Krishna consciousness, automatically the bad qualities are driven out. We should be aware also of what are good qualities, what are bad qualities. Lord Krishna describes in Bhagavad-gita what are the divine qualities, what are the demoniac qualities. Because we're coming from demoniac backgrounds, even after coming to Krishna consciousness, we may have these bad qualities. Not may have, we do have these bad qualities residual in our hearts. It's a strain. Yes. It's difficult if you're not used to it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a strain. You have to think exactly what to say. I know, I used to do it. That's a different language. So, if a devotee is also proud, arrogant, selfish, cruel, takes pleasure in giving distress to others, this is not at all proper for a devotee. It's a disqualification. So we should see how much the good qualities are developing in us. Even if we do a lot of service, that's very good, that is required. But we should never take that as an excuse not to develop our saintly quality. Just like if someone distributes a lot of books, but then they become proud and they think they can just treat the devotees like this, then he's not getting the actual result of developing Krishna consciousness. At the same time, like I was saying, we shouldn't develop this false idea of saintliness, just putting on a show of being nice. Is there any question? I will leave it there.